but you never leave me. No, my heart is bleeding, and I know this feeling's not fleeting. Your hugs were the best thing, just wrapped up in your strength. I'd give up to be there right now. I just want you back, we all want that. I just wish that you hadn't forgotten. I hate this disease, I hate human beings. We fall apart before we get broken. Lock myself in my room to listen to voices recorded. Don't walk outside to avoid being avoided. This feeling that comes with not having a purpose. If I find something soon, maybe I won't feel so worthless. I've always felt this rhythm, but I thought it'd be pointless. Playing music that's for rich folks, not a prophet of poignance. Pointless is a feeling that comes over me often. Though I keep going for a fear of not affording my own coffin. I know I sound sad, but I've got to be honest. It's soothing to me and it helps with my progress. Writing these songs helps me change, then I have to. Not even for me, but everyone that I matter to. I've got this feeling life won't always be like this. My dad said to me, it's your calling, your purpose. Walking through this life like a man with no shadow. Always by myself, just trying to find my way. I've got no idea of how to get this thing started. Looking for a way out never got me by. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. All this medicine does is hide the truth. How could you be happy if you've got nothing to prove? So get up and get out there, son, what you got to lose. Walking through this life, forgetting strife in the rear view. Don't prolong the pain, I owe myself more than that. If I learned my lesson, could I go back to high school? Tell myself to have some fun, don't be so pent up. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. All this medicine does is hide the truth. How could you be happy if you've got nothing to prove? So get up and get out there, son, what you got to lose. hot water. My sights are skewed, forgive me, Father. Sent you a text over dramatic. Got the response I wish I hadn't. I feel ashamed beneath my sleeves. Too much has changed, I have to leave. I love my family, I love my friends. And as for you, some good things end. I've made mistakes, I wish I hadn't. Things don't just change, we make them happen. I proved a point, forgave my father. Became less bitter, cause love is softer. I think I'm going off the deep end. I think I took a left when I should've took a right at the bend. I think I'm looking at the wrong trends. All these different people around me and they're calling me friend. Come on man, let's just pass the time. From amphetamine to weed, all it takes is a drive. And it's alright, I got you this time. Let's just pick up something quick, I want out of my mind. I think I'll look into some new friends. Everyone I know seems to somehow trip me up in the end. I can't wait around until then. I can turn this thing around. I just need a place to begin. Come on, man, let's just pass the time.
Welcome everybody. It is Monday, May the 18th that I look at my calendar on my computer to make sure I say the right day. And we are live. It is the SchuBros, and we are joined again by our great guest, a great person to have on. We have Saint Kincaid, but before we get to him, I want to bring in the one, the only, the bearded wonder, Kyle. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm living life, having fun. Got through a long day of work, enjoyed a little bit of downtime with my wife, and now I'm over here dealing with you. But hey, at least I get to talk to Saint again. That's awesome.
There we
I
go.
don't
There
have
we
to
go.
completely deal with you the whole time.
There we go.
And my governor got up in front of a crowd this morning or this afternoon, whichever way you want to go with it, and told the rest of the world, coronavirus, baby, we back.
That's right.
Let's do it.
All right. So with that being said, Mr. Saint, how are you doing tonight?
Oh man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Got the coronavirus beard growing and everything like that in solidarity with you guys. So I'm just ready to get on here, have some fun, have a good conversation again, and have an excellent podcast
There we
and
go.
sip on my whiskey.
So Saint, you and I have gone back and forth on a few topics today via Twitter.
Right.
So if anybody has been paying attention or follows me Insane on Twitter, which be sure to do so. It's at Status Culture for you. It's at Ross Schumann for me. At Kyle Schumann 08 for Kyle over there. And if you've been following us on Twitter, it's been an interesting day. So we've had a couple of events that have gone on. So Ahmaud Arbery was the big topic last week. But there's
Right.
another shooting that we said we don't really feel like it's getting the public knowledge that we think it should. And you seem to
Right.
be fairly familiar with the details of this case. So I want you to go through for our listeners. This happened in Louisville, Kentucky. And so I'll just give you a brief synopsis of what I know.
Okay.
A man and a woman who happened to be African American black
Mm-hmm.
were at home. It was her and her boyfriend. They were at their house. They were asleep or late in the evening, and all of a sudden, somebody starts trying to kick in their door. Somebody busts in their door with a gun drawn. Boyfriend happens to have a weapon, so he, in self-defense, decides to start firing because he has no clue why these people are busting in his door, who these people are, why they're coming through the door, anything. He shoots. Well, it turns out that this happened to be a bunch of police officers serving a no-knock warrant, and I'm going to put my finger quotes up there because I think that's complete bullshit. They were serving a no-knock warrant, so they think he's an assailant who's shooting at them, so they start shooting back. They wound him and end up killing the girlfriend in the process. Now, I'm sure there's details I've missed there and or big plot points here that we don't have. So I want you to fill us in where I missed out there.
Okay. So first and foremost, this is I'm not even taking this as you can take it as a race issue, but I'm not even taking it as a race issue. I'm taking this as just a blanket American issue, blanket we have rights issue, and blanket in danger to the American society. First off, like we said on Twitter earlier today, a no-knock warrant is complete bullshit.
Yes.
Because you have an instance to where the gentleman that fired at the cops, what a lot of people are failing to mention is that he was a legal gun holder. That was a legal firearm. It was a legal firearm. Someone busts into the house, and then you have a situation to where he fires at them because he's a legal gun owner. He's thinking, I'm not a criminal. Why is someone kicking in my door? Then information comes out that they served the warrant on the wrong house. So you telling me that you're going to kick in my door, you don't announce yourself, I'm a legal firearm holder, I defend my property, I shoot at you, you wound me, but you hit a first responder, which is my girlfriend, 8 times, you kill her, but then you go on the back end and you charge me with attempted murder? And then what makes it even more sick is information is starting to come out today that they obtained the warrant off false information. So one of the things that I said on Twitter today was, if you're a Trump supporter, you should have some type of feelings towards these warrants being served off false information, just because we have things with General Flynn, we have the wiretaps and stuff going on Trump's campaign, FISA warrants that were obtained through faulty information, weak information at best. So now we have police officers playing cowboys. Now, this is one thing I want to get out the way, and this is a narrative or something that we have to address in America. If you disagree with bad cops doing bad things, it doesn't make you anti-police. If me or you, if any of us do anything wrong at our job, we're going to be held accountable. We're held to a standard. I find it weird that if you speak up against bad policing, then all of a sudden they try to come in and say you're anti-cop and they try to paint you in the corner as being anti-cop. No, not every cop is bad, but if you have a bad cop, we should be able to point them out and say, hold them accountable for getting this warrant off bad information, hold cops accountable that do bad things, and then let's move forward, because then that's going to increase the trust within each community for the police. Because I know this, a lot of people don't mention this on Twitter in conversation, but bad policing affects blacks and poor whites. So
Yeah.
let's not act like it's just a black thing. No, poor whites get affected by
Oh,
police
all
brutality
communities,
and
yeah.
all that type. All community, yeah. So it's not just okay exclusively to the black community. No, you have situations to where bad policing happens on a class ratio because a lot of the times we don't have the means in terms of certain demographics. Not saying that all white people are poor, or all black people are poor, but certain demographics, let's say the less fortunate, doesn't have the means to then seek justice when they're falsely charged or different things like that happen. So let's get that out the way. I'm not saying that all police are bad. I'm not anti-police, but we should be able to hold them accountable for doing things that, you know, was out of their jurisdiction. They use faulty means, things like that.
Yeah, and this is one of the downsides to the police unions. Now, the police unions serve a very vital, aspect in the fact that, they're having to go up against the government instead of just a normal, employer. They're actually having to fight against either, the federal government, the local government, the state government, whatever it may be. But the police unions have a vital role so they can actually have some say in how their budget is made and how their officers are treated. But it oftentimes protects bad cops because they have to have so many strikes. They have to have so many issues come up. And these racist cops or these cops that just don't, aren't there for the right intentions, they are very good at hiding in plain sight. So they won't make the mistakes because they know they have the union. And then sometimes they will make the mistake, but they know they have the union on their backside just in case they do falter any. So that is one of the few downsides to the police unions is that, it does protect bad cops. So that's one thing that we need to work on as a public is letting the police unions know, hey, look, we're all for you getting paid. We're all for you being protected. We're all for you staying safe. But when you discover you have a bad apple amongst your bunch, you need to weed it out as soon as possible. Otherwise, one bad apple spoils the bunch, and as soon as we know about it, we're going to be demanding that he be let go and go somewhere else. And if you don't remove him because of the union, now you've set a bad precedent.
My thing is, even when it gets past the union and it actually goes to trial, we jurors have to feel comfortable in convicting bad cops. You have to feel comfortable in that. You can't feel like you're endangering yourself. You can't feel like, oh, they're going to hold it against me within my community. They're going to remember me. If we have to do jurors that are, that the officers can't identify, or we have to do trial by judge or anything like that, we have to make it to where bad cops who mess up on the job, and it don't necessarily have to be a situation to where it even goes to court. We just need them held responsible. We don't need slaps on the wrist or anything. Because when a situation comes about where this situation, they told the judge that they had proof that something was being mailed to the lady's home, and they used that information to then gain access to gain the warrant. But what turned out to happen is the person that's over the USPS, he's saying that they never got that information from them. So they lied about that in order to get the warrant.
Yeah.
So now if you're lying to get a warrant and then something happens to where someone ends up dying, then now you're in this gray area like, okay, what is this? Is this murder? What is this now? Because it was obtained on false means, and now someone has lost their life for it. But then you're compounding the mistake by then charging the boyfriend with attempted murder of officers when he's a legal firearm holder.
Yeah, when he was acting in self-defense. So let's get the first argument out of the way. And I made this argument to you today, and I think we're in agreement here. No-knock warrants, there's no place for them in our society.
Right.
We can't have self-defense laws. We can't argue self-defense and then argue that no-knock warrants are acceptable. Because as I said, I'm white. I grew up on a big ranch. Kyle and I grew up outside of urban communities. I now live in the city. Kyle now lives in the city. If you come into my house and I don't know who the hell you are. I'm not going to ask if you have a badge. If you're pointing a gun at me and you're coming into my house, I'm going to shoot at you, and I'm going to hope that I take you down before you take me down, and I'm going to at least try to take down as many people as I can before I think you have access to my wife or kids. It's not about you're a police officer, I need to respect you because you're serving your job. No. Because these no-knock warrants aren't served in the middle of the day. They're typically served in the middle of the night or late in the evening or early in the morning to try to catch people at home. There's other means. I understand, the tactical component of catching somebody off guard, catching them by surprise. I understand that. But you can catch them by surprise in their daily commute. You can catch them by surprise coming out of a grocery store. You can catch them by surprise in all other means and manners, right? You can even wait for them to come out of their house. You can have the house cased, wait for them to get in their car, and then make your move. But they compounded the issue here by coming into the home. Now he has the right to self-defense. Now he has the access to the weapon. If they'd have waited for him to be in his car, he probably wouldn't have had the weapon with him, or he would have thought it was a routine traffic stop. And it sounds like, to all knowledge at the moment, the guy was a law-abiding citizen. It was a legally licensed weapon. He was doing nothing wrong. And to then find out that now, as you pointed out, that the data that they claim to have that allowed them to get the warrant, even though what I read, and maybe correct me, maybe I'm wrong here, they had already arrested the suspected perpetrator earlier in the day. The guy that they thought was actually doing it, he was already in jail. And now that's come out that the data that they used to justify the warrant was not just faulty, because faulty data is one thing. To get bad information is one thing. They made it up. They fabricated it. It doesn't exist. They said they went to the U.S. Postal Service. The Postmaster General of that area is saying, no, they did not. They did not come here. They did. We never gave them any information related to this subject. So if that's the case, they fabricated evidence, which means that these officers, and I'm with you, as I make this argument when it comes to any government employee, teachers, military members. In the military, we had a thing about, policing our own. We take care of the guys who were making us look bad because we wanted to have. But when you have localized police departments, it's harder to handle your own across these larger areas. And now we have she was a nurse, correct? The lady in question was a nurse.
She was an EMT worker studying to be a nurse.
EMT studying to be a nurse. Now she's dead. And now her boyfriend, who was trying to defend himself and his loved one at the moment, is in jail for possibly attempted murder of a cop when he had no clue they were fucking cops because it was a no-knock warrant.
Right, exactly.
It makes
I mean, there's two things there also. One, people impersonate cops all the time.
Exactly.
So you don't know if it really is a cop, if it's not. Badges are easy to come by. You can get them out of costume stores, shit like that.
Middle of the night, it's hard to tell.
In the middle of the night, it's really hard to tell. But the other thing is, and I'll argue it from the other perspective for a cop. And I'll put an analogy on a local situation for me and you, and I think you're aware of what happened.
Yeah, I know what happened, yeah.
Somerville, Texas, they served a no-knock warrant, and an officer ended up getting killed. And we didn't personally know him, but we know people that did, and they've been very affected by it. And the reason they did a no-knock warrant was because they knew the gentleman was moving drugs, and be able to actually catch him with the drugs on site, they had to do the no-knock, to go in there like that. But it ended up with an officer losing his life. So this is putting our officers at risk, and it's putting our citizenry at risk. But there is a situation where you do have to do certain things like that to catch them in the act, because otherwise they're just mules. They're just moving it from one to the other. And if you don't catch them in the act, you're not going to catch them, and then they'll just claim, you had faulty data. I don't know what happening here at St. Louis. I don't know, what the St. Louis gun laws are on the books as far as
Louisville, not St. Louis.
Louisville. Sorry. As far as like here in Texas, we have the Castle Doctrine, which does state that we can protect our house, we can protect our business, our car, and our person. I don't know if the same rules apply in Louisville, Kentucky, as they do here in Central Texas or in Texas in general.
I agree with you. I don't know if the rules apply, but I'll tell you what I do know is that the rules should apply. Because
Oh yes, definitely.
what I see it here is, and I agree. I thank you, Saint, for saying that you don't see it as a racial issue, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
plenty of people will. Right, the Ahmaud Arbery, that I see a little more maybe as being a racial issue because we don't know
Right.
what the McMichaels' personal biases were here. It doesn't
Right.
seem as if they were acting within legitimate means there. I don't believe. But in this case, it looks like maybe the officers that were serving the warrant, they were doing their job, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. There's some justification for the officers, but we have to find out who was the person that went to the court and sought the warrant with the bad
Exactly.
data. We need to know who that person was. We need to
And who the
know.
judge was that approved the warrant in the first place. In that place,
eh,
it's the judge's responsibility and role to look at these inquiries and look at these requests and go, yes, this is valid, or no, it's not. So
Yep.
if the judge, now true, if it was false data and the judge didn't know that, then he doesn't have, he can't really make a fair judgment on him based on that. He went with the information he had at hand. But yeah, whoever presented this to the judge to get the warrant in the first place definitely needs to have some questions brought up about them and why they were presenting false data to try to gain a warrant, and especially a no-knock warrant. If you're going to go with no-knock warrant, you need to have an airtight case.
Well,
Ifs, no
if you're
ands,
going to
no
go with
buts
no
about
knock
it.
warrant, it needs to be a situation where you know for a fact that that person is a danger and has a potential to harm other people. It doesn't
Right.
seem that any of those things were acknowledged in this case. It doesn't seem that it seems like the officers shot first, asked questions later, which you can make some justification here, but there's also others that need to be made here. And I'm with both of you that let's say I ever become a mayor of a town, first thing I'm going to do is say, okay, we're not doing no knock warrants, right? It's not going to
Right.
happen. Well, it's not going to happen in my city because I just think it's such an invasion of personal liberty, individual liberty, because cops can get the wrong address, they can get the wrong house, their data can be bad, their intel can be bad. All these other things can
Swatting
happen.
is a thing.
Yeah,
Yes, swatting is a thing.
that all
Someone has got killed swatting before because of a swatting situation.
yeah.
Similar circumstances. And another thing you have to realize is it's like, okay, it's an analogy where you say you throw bad money after another. If you make a mistake on an investment, but you keep throwing bad money at it, you're not going to solve that investment by throwing bad money at it. When they charged him with attempted murder of an officer, that was like throwing bad money at the problem, just due to the fact the only reason why you're charging him with attempted murder is to now justify you guys returning fire and shooting her 8 times and injuring him.
Yeah.
Because other than that, it should have been a situation to where you're like, okay, you get the civil attorneys involved, you work out something, it's a screw up on the department's hands and everything like that. The dude was already arrested, he wasn't there, you still kicked in the house, you know what I'm saying? He's a legal firearm holder, but you still return fire at him over 40 something odd times, hit her 8 times, going through bedrooms with other residents at the house. I mean, this could have been a full-on shit show. It's lucky that only one person died. But instead of you guys manning up as a department, the captain of the department coming out and saying, hey, listen, this mistakes like this happen, blah, blah, blah. You guys compound the issue and charge this man with attempted murder. So that happens. You charge him, he sits in booking, but then you bring him in front of the judge, and the judge is, I don't understand how the judge could even say, okay, yeah, we're going to charge this man with attempted murder. Like, I feel like any lawyer worth their weight in salt is going to be able to argue against this and have this gentleman out of jail. It shouldn't have to go viral. Like, we shouldn't have heard about him being locked up to this day in regards to an attempted murder charge on an officer.
No.
He should be out.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% correct there. I think, listen, when he opened fire, and I think, okay, I think to the best of his knowledge, and like with always, more facts can come out. We can get more facts later, and things can change and whatever. But at this moment, with the knowledge we have, with the data we have, what this appears to be is that he thought he was acting in his own best self-defense at the moment, which he's perfectly within his right to do so. And I'm sure Kentucky has a self-defense law. I'm sure there's rules like that there. Number two is that he had no clue that these men were police officers or that they were trying to serve out a warrant because it was a no-knock warrant. So he's unaware as to their intentions, who they are, what they're doing. So to me right now, I agree with you. It appears that he's in jail to justify a bad action on their part, and that there's really no. If I was the DA in this case, I'd be saying, look, guys, we don't really have a case here. We probably are going to be more in trouble for holding him than we would be just letting him go. We can always rearrest him later. We can always, if something comes out where we find out, okay, he actually was in the wrong, we have viable evidence of that, we can always rearrest him. But you got to err on the side of individual liberty here. And I know there's going to be people that don't like this option, right? It's like in the Ahmaud Arbery case where people say, well, he could have been committing a crime, but we don't have proof of that, and it's not our job to make that decision in this case. It's not our job to be the judge, jury, and executioner. That's why we have these systems in place. He has the right to meet in front of a judge. And I will say to one point you made earlier, I absolutely disagree that we should do this by judge decision, because judges are going to side with the government officials to make the government look better. This has to be a jury of his peers. And I'll agree with you that, okay, we can move this to a court in another county outside the jurisdiction so that this is handled by jurors that are not policed by these people, that aren't being done, that aren't affected. There's no conflict of interest, and that might be the only way to get a clean juror pool in cases like this. But I've done trial by judge before when I've done speeding tickets and other things, and I can tell you, if you do trial by judge, you already know what the verdict's going to be. They're going to side with the government.
Not always. I mean, I've done trial by judge, and I made my case. I let them know, this is why I was speeding. I thought I was in a insurance trap. One car came up in front of me, got over real fast in front of me, and then all of a sudden I heard another car start revving the engine, looking like he was trying to get right up beside me so that I had nowhere to go. Told that to the judge, explained my situation, explained the fact that, I am an insurance agent. Like, look, I understand why your police officer gave me a ticket because I sped up to get out of that trap, but this is why I did it. He said, what, sir? I understand why you did it. You then went back to a normal speed as soon as you were out of that situation, and we're good to go. So he dismissed the ticket. It's not always an open and case shut like that. And yes, there are people, especially in certain areas, certain situations, where they're just going to have each other's backs no matter what. But if you get a good judge,
I would still argue that trial by jury, trial by peer is going to be the best option in these cases, because it's going to leave the least amount of room for a conflict of interest. Because if I bring in 12 random people that don't know the assailant, don't know the victim, versus a judge who can be viewed as impartial in the case, whether you like it or not, the judge can be viewed as impartial. He works for the government. The person that, it's like the prosecutors in the Ahmaud Arbery case. These prosecutors recused themselves, and I do appreciate that they recused themselves. But the letter the one prosecutor wrote before he recused himself was completely out of line. He shouldn't have released a public statement saying that he believed X, Y, or Z. If you recuse yourself from the case, you recuse yourself from the damn case. You don't come in and then try to taint the opinion one way or the other. But they had relationships with the possible assailant, so they recused themselves, which is the correct thing to do. And I will say, Saint, you may disagree here, but we know that there was this 3-month window between having the incident and then having a charge or became. Part of that was because of the lack of prosecutor, not having a prosecutor. You can't, nobody's going to submit for them to be tried if there's no prosecutor to submit those charges. Once a prosecutor who was unbiased, untainted, didn't have a possible conflict of interest, was assigned, he did submit it for charges. So it appears, at least in this case, that side of it is at least reasonably within the process.
I think in this particular instance, and we're switching over to the Arbery situation. In this particular case, I think the civil unrest came into play just due to the fact of the lack of charges and how long it took charges to come down on the individuals. Now, we're in special circumstances right now due to COVID-19 and everything like that. Now, you could have just laid it on the fact of COVID-19, but like you alluded to earlier, when you mentioned the original DA, the original DA made it seem like, it was a chance that he was breaking into properties. She talked, the officers on scene said that that she didn't want them to arrest the McMichaels at that time. And then because they said they were ready to arrest on the scene that day. So not only because of your decision as the DA and running the DA office that you've made, you've brung a microscope down on the entire department because you're showing favoritism to these individuals because he worked as an investigator for the DA office. The problem with that is we just, like a lot of the times in the African-American, the Black community, we feel like we don't have equal application of the laws. Now, in terms of equal application of the laws, we just want a situation to where now plenty of video has came out that individuals will walk up to the property like we all done before. Me and my wife have in Texas, they have open houses when the agent's not even in the house. You have business cards on the island. You walk into the house. It could be under construction or whatever. You take a tour. You walk out the house.
Kyle talked about that last week in his neighborhood.
Exactly. So Texas is different like that. So me and my wife, we've walked in condos, houses all the time, looked around, took a business card, walked out. Now you have that situation. We're all American citizens. We all pay our taxes. We all have our freedoms and our liberties. As a free person, and I want to be able to, okay, if you feel like I did something wrong, call the police, let the police come, let them question me. That's their job. Once they realize that, okay, I was on that property. If you have a problem with that, if that's against the law in Georgia, I'm not for sure. Some people say in Georgia, as long as it's not an actual door that you go through, if it's an open building, like it wasn't any doors or walls, so it's not actually considered trespassing. But if that's the case, give me my trespassing ticket and let me go about my business. Yeah. If I'm somebody in South Georgia, I'm a black individual.
I'm pretty sure prosecutors aren't going to recommend the death penalty for a trespassing case.
Exactly. So if someone's chasing me down with a shotgun and a handgun, and I see someone coming up behind me, then it's the fight or flight. You have a choice at that point because he tried to flight at first. If you watch the video, you can see he goes around the passenger side of the car. The gentleman comes out the driver's side, then engages him at the front of the car. So once he tried to flight and you engage him at the front of the car, now he's on fight mode. So he tried to fight for his life, and then it happens that he gets killed. So I just want people to not rush to then justify your assumptions on he might have deserved this because he has a criminal past. No, the Constitution, if you guys claim to be constitutionalists and patriots, then you should follow the letter of the law of the Constitution. The Constitution in the 4th, 5th, and 6th talks about right to jury, right to counsel. You know, that's something that the American dream, America is built on the Constitution, on those things.
And the 14th gives us equal opportunity under the law, equal application of the law. When, you know, so okay, let's just run with that. And I'm going to bring up what seems to have been a bad name for you lately, which is Candace Owens, who is running with the narrative that, okay, he was a criminal so that these actions were justified. I don't agree with that narrative. There's some things I like that Candace Owens has come out with, but I think she's kind of lost her mind a little bit on this case. Listen, you know, okay, if he was a criminal, let's say he was a career criminal and he went in and he stole, let's just say that was his thing, is he went to open construction sites and he stole power tools or whatever and pawned them. Okay, like you said, that's a crime, fine. But that doesn't justify the other actions that occurred here. That doesn't create the opportunity for vigilante justice. And I've had the
Exactly.
argument on Twitter where people said, well, there's a citizen's arrest law in Georgia. And okay, I've read that law. The law is there. They have the right to commit a citizen's arrest, but in the law it specifically says that the arrest is only to be made if it can be done so assuredly safely, and that neither participant will be, and nowhere in the law does it say if you think he committed a crime, you can go grab your guns
Right.
and go point them at him. It doesn't say
Because
that
you have to
anywhere in the law.
witness it. Yes, in the law, you have to actually witness that action. So this is okay. I'm gonna let you know what my problem with Candace Owens is. Now, every community, like we as a species alone, let's just say as the human species, we all have the areas of improvement that we can improve upon. Specifically talking about the Black culture, Black society, we have areas that most definitely that we have to be self-accountable for, and we have to improve upon as a we have to improve. Hold on one second. We have to improve upon as a ethnic group and things like that. But what you don't do is in a situation like this, do you want the truth or do you want to be right? She wants to be right over the truth.
Yeah.
Because she says, oh, I'm waiting for facts to come out. When facts come out to disprove everything that you're saying, you don't come back and retract things that you say. You have a following of 2.2 million, and you're just feeding them red meat in order to justify their bias. So that's where my problem comes in. Like if it was a fact about truth, as soon as the truth came out that multiple people have entered the property, be it white, Black, kids, whoever, that he didn't have boots on, that he didn't steal anything, that he did try to flee the situation before being engaged at it, you would have retracted statements you made and readdressed those to your 2.2 million followers. But it's not the case. You want to be right rather than have the truth. So that's where I come to the disagreement with her. Now, if she were to actually be someone that's trying to, instead of increase her base, feed red meat to her audience, if she wants someone that was actually trying to help the community, it's ways to go about that other than the way she's going about it.
I agree. I think you're right.
Yeah, same here. My I had a thought, now it's completely lost it, but let's pivot a little bit. Let's go to what happened today around noon. Governor Abbott got up in front of the crowd and announced that, while we are seeing new highs when it comes to positive tests, we are seeing an all-time low as far as it comes to.
I do want to dispel that right quick. This is not the highest amount of positives we've ever gotten in a single day. This is the highest jump
in
between
general.
one day to the next we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And there were tests that were done 3-4 weeks ago that we're just now getting the results for, that are being counted in today's positive results. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
But the main thing that he hit on there, if you'd let me finish, the main thing that he hit on there was that we're seeing a record low number of hospitalizations as well as deaths. So while we are seeing more positive results due to the fact that we are testing a lot more, as well as more tests from the backlog finally coming through,
and
the hospitalizations and the deaths are significantly down, which warranted the movement forward of going ahead and opening the state back up tier 3, tier 4. So
okay, quick thing, because this is something that it pisses me off, just to be honest with you guys. And I know you guys, I was harping on this right before the Arbery situation. I was harping on this heavy. I went on an anti-China run for at least 2 straight weeks in regards to just due to the fact, 2 things. We're third globally in terms of population. You have China, you have India, you have us country-wise, So you have a situation to where we're not a third, we're established, we're a superpower country, so we have the ability to test more. So of course we're going to have the most in terms of identified cases of COVID-19. Then you have India and China, which are not, let's say China is coming up, but they're still not that of a well-established country. India is well off in certain areas and things. So people aren't getting tested. So you're going to have people dying. You're going to have people not getting identified with COVID-19 and everything. So for the media to use this as leverage against Trump, first of all, it's sick in my eyes, because let's not act like they're holier than thou and they're not capable of stooping to this low, because over the last 4 years we've seen the lows that they're willing to stoop to try to derail this president. So let's address that fact that we are testing more than any other country. Yes, we might have the most cases, but we also have the highest rate in terms of 99.3, I believe, last time I looked, in terms of people that it's not fatal. So if you go in the hospital with COVID, 99% of the time, you're going to walk out the hospital alive. So, and then lastly, before I hand it back to you guys, why do we have political reporters inside instead of medical reporters? Because these political reporters are asking dumb ass questions to the press secretary and to Trump. They're not asking questions that is actually beneficial to us, the public, on helping us get a better understanding of the COVID. They're asking questions and try to catch these people in these little traps, so then they can have a byline or a headline for their newspaper on this 24-hour news cycle. So this whole situation has gotten me pissed off, and that's even before we pivot over to the economic effects of this.
Yeah, and going to the economic effects of it, Georgia, Florida, Texas, 3 of the states that have opened up relatively the most right now. South Dakota, Iowa never really closed down. These
Florida as well.
Florida closed down for a minute, but they're open. So Florida, Georgia,
but they're
Texas.
back open.
Florida, Georgia,
They're
Texas. Florida, Georgia,
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
We're seeing that these states are, okay, we had a little bit of a spike in cases today, but again, as Kyle pointed to, no spike in hospitalizations. Our death rate is amongst one of the lowest. So today, Governor Abbott sent out a pictorial, and it had California, Texas, Florida, and New York as the 4 most populous states in the United States.
With a small typo.
With one, morality versus mortality. So, okay, yeah. I don't know who actually made this.
Because in that case, we probably have New York by a significant margin.
Okay, but
yes,
that's
another point here is, okay, so it goes over state income tax. California with a 13% state income tax. Texas and Florida with a 0% state income tax. New York with an 8% income tax. Then you look at the amount of budget, the debt. Texas and Florida, no debt. No debt whatsoever by either state. California is $54 billion in debt, soon to be much, much higher. New York is $6.1 billion in debt, soon to be much, much higher. We look at the amount of cases. Although Florida and Texas have 40,000 cases each, California's at 70,000. New York, of course, at 335,000. Not of deaths, that's where the difference becomes. Because in the mortality rate, not the morality rate, as the meme said, is that Texas is leading at 0.0038%, whereas California is at 0.0071, and New York is at 0.1399. So that's an order of magnitude higher in mortality for New York than it is for Texas. And the reason for that, when everybody is saying, you guys want to kill grandmas, New York and California and a lot of other of the real left states, Michigan, all these states, they forced nursing homes to take positive COVID patients, exposing the weakest among our society to the disease, to it. I mean, and we see in Pennsylvania that the governor moved his own mom out before putting everybody else in, which says he knew it was going to be bad. He knew the possibility of infection was there and still chose to do it, and that was putting his people, his elderly population, at risk. We've seen this in New York. The governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo's come out and said, nobody can be prosecuted on this. Old people are going to die. Whoa, wait a minute. We were saying that a couple months ago when we were grandma killers. One life meant everything back then. Now, all of a sudden, one life doesn't mean everything, and we can kill people just for whatever reason. It seems a little bit silly to me. And what do you think of that? Do you think states like Texas that didn't enforce those laws and have allowed things to stay open are better, or do you think it's better in states like New York?
I'm totally against it as a whole. First and foremost, industry. She's studying to be a nurse, so this is something that interests her. She let me know that it takes years to get a proper vaccine. So you have these leftist states that are saying we're not going to get back to normal until we have a proper vaccine, until we have a cure. So you're putting the economy at risk by saying this, but then at the same time, you're asking for federal bailout money because of your deficit. A lot of this deficit was in existence before the COVID situation, but now it's getting compounded due to the fact that you have these draconian measures to where you're cutting off water for small business owners that want to get back to work. I don't believe that anyone who's uncomfortable putting their self at risk in terms of COVID should have to pay any type of penalty or anything like that. I place full blame on China in regards to this situation. Now, could we have been better prepared in terms of how we address this situation? I can never, that's only an assumption on my part, just due to the fact that the information we were getting from WHO, the information we were getting from China, the information we were getting from CDC was bad information due to we were being fed bad information. But it comes a point in time to where President said this earlier in this situation, where the cure becomes worse than the disease. Now, the cure is, you're saying the cure is, first it was, let's flatten the curve. Now is we're looking for a cure. So you're moving the goalpost, and all while you're moving the goalpost, people are falling behind on their mortgages. People are falling behind on car notes, rent. They're struggling, and we're increasing the deficit because now that the Democrats have seen that we're willing to give out $2 trillion, and no one can keep track of $2 trillion. As you can see, Harvard with a $42 billion endowment is getting $10 million. So they went crazy. Now they're asking for $3 trillion. So I'm on the side of Governor Abbott, the governor in Florida and Georgia, where they're like, hey, listen, yes, exactly. I'm on their side on the fact that we know now how to take preventative measures in regards to washing your hands, in regards to wearing a mask, in regards to disinfecting your hands and things like that. And we have to take those precautions, but we have to get back to work.
No, that's precisely it, man. It's time for us to understand that. Listen, I don't want any grandmother to die. I don't want any person to die. I don't want anybody to die. I don't want anything like that to happen. But at the same time, we have to understand that we can't go out and force people into things that are going to cause really bad things to happen. We can't cause people to have to miss house payments. We can't cause people to have to miss car payments. We can't miss, and the other side of this that's not being looked at right now, and I think Greg Abbott's brought it up, I think Chip Roy's brought it up, a couple other people, is that how much school are we missing right now? How much school are kids missing right now? And there's a lot of kids who, without that structure in their lives, without that ability to have that teacher or that person in their lives that's influential to them, they're going to start going down a bad path. Because there's nothing for them to do. And, what's the old saying is that the devil plays on an inactive mind.
Exactly.
There's kids who are
idle
already
hands
in bad.
is the devil's playground.
Yeah, there's kids who are already in bad situations economically or other things that are going to be even more tempted to fall into a bad life or a bad track, and we need to get kids back in school. Not my kids, but kids who want to get the parents who want to put their kids in those schools. We need to get those kids back in schools. Trust me, my kids haven't missed a day of school yet.
Oh, I'm in total agreement. But why? Okay, so this is the gist of the situation. So, I feel sorry for a lot of our older workers who've invested heavily into their 401k, and then they've taken a hit on their 401k from this situation. But what's really pissing me off about this situation is, why don't we come together as Americans any longer? Why has the hate for this president gone to such extreme to where we're willing to give air cover to a communist country? Like, we know this is a communist country. Like, it's not like, oh, China may be a free. No, it's a communist country. We know that they quiet their reporters. If you're a whistleblower, you're going to disappear. We know that they have Muslims in concentration camps. We know they have organ harvesting farms. We know they manipulate currency. We know they do all these things, but we hate Trump so much that we're willing to say, oh, we can't call this the China virus, or oh, we don't know exactly where this came from. Well, it's not their fault that they lied to us and these type of things. No, it's a point in time where you have to choose a side. And this is one of those times where I feel like this should have galvanized us as a country to say, listen, this is not acceptable. What happened with this in terms of, I don't know how it got out the lab or why they chose to lie or anything like that. No, they need to be held accountable. And you guys need to spend your time asking questions on us figuring out how it came from China and spread across the world instead of trying to catch Trump and the press secretary in these little got you moments.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's been very odd and weird how all this has been going down. And I mean, to this day, has China allowed the CDC in to investigate?
No.
No. So, I mean, I don't believe the WHO. I don't believe China.
There was a show vote in the UN today that China
Oh.
said that they would support an investigation, but only after the virus had completely been dealt with, meaning that they get to set the timeline for when the investigation can happen, meaning that they get to go in, make whatever they want to make happen, and then we can do it. Saint, I want to appreciate you coming on today, coming on and talking with us a little bit. I know you got other things to do this evening, Twitter people to troll, so I'm going to let you get back to it. But thank you so much. Where can all our listeners find you?
I'm on Twitter. You gave it out earlier, Saint. Let me get a Status Culture on Twitter, Saint Kincaid. I want to definitely say appreciate you guys bringing me on. And it's conversations like this that help to push culture forward, help us to evolve as a nation. It's not fun being in an echo chamber. It's not fun having the comfortable conversations. We need to be able to have conversations based on the fact that we're all human beings. We might have different upbringings from being in the country to being into the city. But at the end of the day, we're all God's creations and we're all human beings, and we need to base ourselves and base our discussions on that. So I appreciate you guys bringing me on as always, and you guys have a blessed one.
You too, Senator.
You too,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Very well said.
All right.
Gig 'em and God bless, buddy.
Yep.
Have a great night. So with that being said, Kyle, we talk politics, but we're actually going to have a little bit of sports news today. We have a little bit of Aggie recruiting news. That's kind of neat. NASCAR. We had a NASCAR race this last weekend. That was actually some fun. We actually got to sit and watch people try to beat each other in a serious competition that didn't happen online or via Xbox. And we're getting some good news. New York is now committed to opening up sports leagues. Florida has committed to opening up. Texas, of course, is committed to opening up. It looks like every SEC school.
I think I even saw California saying they're going to allow professional sports teams to come back.
Okay,
without
viewers,
without fans.
Yeah, without fans.
Without fans in the stands, but at least play again.
You know, listen, I understand that, like, for college football, and listen, I understand. I grew up with you going to Aggie games and all that crap, and the culture of Aggie football and the culture of most college football teams is pretty neat. There's a certain thing there, but I think we would all prefer to at least have the games occur than not have them occur.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe me, I want to be there in the stands. I want to be cheering. I want to be yelling. I want to be screaming. I want to, be part of the fandom that is the game. But at the end of the day, I'm there or no game. I would choose a game and me not there and watching on TV than,
I'm just going to say I have a 12-season consecutive streak of not going to Cowboys games. So, it's really not that big of a difference for me. Would the telecast be different?
Well, I mean, and
not
it's
having
Cowboy Stadium. The acoustics in that place suck. They're garbage, and you
Well-
can't hear the opposite side of the field. So it doesn't matter if you're there or not. That place is about being pretty. That place is not about fan experience.
well, that lower level tier where you can sit right at field level and watch the game. I'd say that's about field experience, but
That's field experience, not fan experience. There's a difference.
well, you can say what you want, right? But I think the point remains is like you said that for me, I'm more interested in pro football than I am college football. I like college football, and I'm going to be happy to watch college football, but I'll be more happy to see pro football come back and see that. We had the NFL today opening up where players could start working out, could come back into the stadiums and work out, utilize the facilities. So we saw Ben Roethlisberger shaving off his COVID beard and getting on his personal jet to go to Pittsburgh and start getting ready for the upcoming season. But there's other sports news coming. So we have, I think at this moment, every SEC school has committed to come back in the fall and play football. I don't think there's LSU. I know was one of the last ones to jump on. The AD just the other week I saw jumped in and said that they would be back. I know Tennessee has. I know Alabama has. I know Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, all those schools, Missouri, all those schools have committed to coming back. I think Vandy might be the one holdout.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain there. I hadn't heard much about that, but I did hear, A&M is saying that they're going to have the games. They just haven't decided if they're going to be fans there or not.
Yeah.
So, but they will have the games, which I'll be interested to see what happens if they do it without fans. Because how much of my money do I get back?
Well, and I think there's another thing here is that the state is now So the state of Texas, for those of you who don't know, for anybody who's joining us from outside the state of Texas, the state of Texas has now allowed 50% occupancy in restaurants and 25% occupancy in bars.
Woohoo!
And things of that nature. Now, Texas still has.
I'm not going, but because I don't go to bars.
No, nobody says you have to, right? Nobody says you have to go. The thing is that you can if you choose to. That the bars can open. Still allowed to get to go alcohol in the state of Texas. We still haven't seen a big rash. We haven't seen anything negative happen towards that. So I went to Los Patrones and Giddings the other day, and a guy came in there and ordered himself a gallon of margarita and walked his happy butt back out with his gallon of margarita. So I was like, you know what? Fine. They're making some money off of this. It's probably just as cheap and easy for them to sell him a gallon of margarita as to have to make him food and everything else. Margaritas, probably one of their highest profit margin products is probably alcoholic beverages. So, why not? That seems like a good deal for them. But I think if like Texas sports teams were to follow along those lines. So right now we're at 50%. So say Kyle Field, it's what, 98,000 capacity?
I think it's 108 now. It was 98 before. It was 100. It was 98 before the renovations, and then for a short period it was like 115. But then they redid the other side of the stadium, and it dropped back down to like 108.
Okay, so 108. So let's say that instead of having 108, that they were able to get 50. Let's just say 50 to make the math easy. 55. Okay, fine. That many people, 55,000 fans in the stadium. You're still going to have a decent atmosphere for a game, having half as many fans. No. Is the university going to make as much money on ticket revenue? No. But do they still make some money on ticket revenue? Yes. And do they then, can build back up as the year goes along as we see how things work?
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. That's the plan, is to allow it to slowly come back to real world. But it's one of those things that you really don't know how it's going to be until you do it. So the sooner that we're out in front of things now, June, July, August, allowing things to open back up, allow things to be returned to normal, the better data we'll have, the more science behind that data, and we'll have better knowledge of how we can do certain things such as that. Now, unfortunately, some stuff does have to be decided right now if they're going to have a season. So, because otherwise you have to delay it or you have to make changes. So they're having to make some decisions today without all the science, without all the data, and they just have to make a decision. They're going to have to either go off their gut or they're going to have to go off what little bit is out there to tell them what is available. So right now it seems like they're playing it safe, but can you really blame them? No, because lawsuits are lawsuits, and we're a very litigious group of people here in the U.S. So
Yeah.
can't blame them.
Unfortunately, we're a very litigious group of people. So, I'm just happy to hear that the possibility exists, because where we were a month ago was that, under no circumstances should this occur, and now at least it's okay, there's at least a realistic option for it to occur. There's a realistic possibility that we will have football games, that we might get some late season NBA in whatever form that takes place, hockey, whatever. And, for a lot of us, that just seems like a return to normalcy again. That seems like a return to the way things should be. So, I mean, let's hear. So there was some Aggie recruiting news you were filling me in on a little bit before the episode started. Let's just go through that real quick. What's going on in the world of football recruiting?
So last 2 weeks or so, a lot of kids have been deciding to commit. Today for Texas A&M, you had Matthew Wyckoff, and gentlemen, I apologize if I mispronounced that. I'm just going off of what it looks like. But he's out of Magnolia, Texas, not too far down the road here in Bryan College Station. He's a 6'5", 305 offensive lineman being recruited as either a tackle, guard, or center. Supposedly the kid is 4.0, very, very smart, and can literally play any position, and has got the mental capacity to play any of the positions on the offensive line. So big pickup for the Aggies. He's only a 3-star recruit right now, but he's had quite a bit of high-end offers come in over the last couple of weeks, and they haven't been adjusting the recruiting rankings a lot due to no camps, no events, no things to evaluate kids off of other than their junior and senior tape. And for this kid to be a junior tape, because he's going to become a senior this fall and then sign wherever he wants to sign, hopefully stay committed to Texas A&M, and then either December or February. And they've talked about not having the December signing day because of all of this, and then come play football next summer wherever he chooses to go.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we saw the final kind of domino for the 2019 class finally officially fell.
2020.
Was that the 2020 class? Okay, so
Yeah.
the final domino for the 2020 class has finally officially fallen in Zach Evans.
Yeah. TCU Horned Frog, of all places.
And we talked about this, last week, and it's not that unreasonable of a place to go. He's got a chance to play right away. I'll give him that. I don't know. I couldn't name you who the running back at TCU is right now. So he's probably the highest ranked recruit they've had at running back in a while, other than maybe LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, and that was back when Fran was still there. Scheist, what was that? And I don't even think he was that high of a recruit. He just turned into a really good player.
Good player, yeah. So, I mean, guys, there's a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, football-wise, it's good. Baseball, we're looking like we're going to get started around July 4th weekend. The proposal.
There's still some debates going on with the players' unions and stuff of that nature, but I see it happening.
I think we'll have enough players decide to go with it. You may have some holdouts. You may have some of the high-end money guys decide not to play this year and risk injury. But I think you'll have enough players play to make it work, and that you'll get at least enough that people will be able to do some things. But looking at it now, so I don't know how much time you spent on Twitter in the last week, but the other day Elon Musk put out that
the red pill.
He's taking the red pill.
Yeah.
Which Michael Knowles had a good segment on that today. The red pill can mean, taking the red pill can mean a lot to a lot of other people. It can either mean that you're just willing to think for yourself and you're not going to be placed into a box ideologically that you're going to allow yourself to see facts and then make, because in the Matrix, the whole point of taking the red pill was that he would see the world as it is, right? Not, oh, he would see it from this perspective or that perspective. And that was the whole thing about the blue pill, is that you would see it from a certain perspective. So you could even, there's some independent mind people that say the red pill isn't about becoming a conservative. It just means that we're willing to see the world for what it is. And we're not going to live in the liberal la-la land of everything should be perfect and everybody should be treated just the way they want to be treated in life, because it doesn't
if you
work.
go back to the days of the Matrix, the red pill is what got you to wake up out of the Matrix.
I literally just said that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm agreeing with you, man. I'm just reiterating it.
But
God,
you
Lord.
forgot the name of the movie after I just said it, which is
Oh, come on, man.
doesn't make any sense. So anyway,
Whatever.
so the red pill can also mean that you have come over to the red side, right? The blue pill, liberals, are typically identified as blue states. Republicans are typically identified as red states. So that could be that. And Elon Musk has kind of become more of the individual liberty type guy lately. He wasn't
opening
really
up his plant there in Fremont against government regulations.
against government regulations. He has listed every home he has in California for sale.
Wow.
So he owns 7 homes in the state of California. Every one of them was listed for sale on Tuesday of last week. So he is
Some real estate agent's gonna make a fat paycheck.
Yeah, so it looks like he is trying to get out of California, and that may be even worse news for the state of California, because although they claim that they have supported him with tax initiatives and other things, there's other communities who will do the same thing. There are other communities that will be just as happy to give Tesla fat tax discounts to bring them in. And Hidalgo County, Texas is rolling out the red carpet and saying, look, if you want to come here, we will make it work for you. We would love those jobs. And I bet you if I went to the Midland City Council, we could get them right now to be looking for some other type of jobs outside of oil and gas. So there's places for him to go that Texas would probably be a better alternative to him than California, business-wise.
Yeah, I mean, and just the fact that he wouldn't have to pay income tax in Texas or Florida or pretty much any state that's not on the east or west coast.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I think for a lot of people, and I think this is important to say, because Kyle and I try to be the guys that say, look, you can be you, and we can be us, and then we can all just agree to let each other be each other. Elon Musk is kind of a weird dude, right? He's kind of a libertarian kind of guy, a little bit. He believes in legalization of weed. He believes in some other things. But the one place he's not wrong in is that giving up your individual liberty, giving up your freedoms is never a good idea. There's never a time when giving up your freedom is going to result in you becoming a better person.
Yeah. I mean, you saw it on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. You have Team Liberty versus Team Safety, or Team Free Speech versus Team Not Free Speech.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten to that point that everyone is either on the side. You're either on one of two sides. You're either on the side of saying I'm an individual and I have my liberty and I will fight to keep it, or you're freedom's not the end all be all. We got to worry about our safety. So it's almost gotten to that point where just one of two teams, and unfortunately, it's gotten to that point in this day and age. You've got people who are willing to give up their freedom of speech, their Second Amendment rights, their third, their fourth, their whatever amendment it is for a little bit of safety, and not realize that it doesn't matter how safe you are if you're not free. Because we've seen over history, over time, over even current today, people that aren't free have no ability to actually make decisions for themselves. They want to be able to, but they don't. Just take Venezuela for the perfect example. They want to be free, and as many of them can get up here, or getting up here as fast as they can, but a lot of them are stuck, and they're not getting out of Venezuela anytime soon. and that place is going to hell in a handbasket, and it's going there as fast as possible. And especially with the oil prices going down, I'm not sure how they're surviving down there, man. Have you heard anything from your friends?
I mean, nothing that's any better than what was going on, right? Nothing that things are getting any better, or there's maybe more possibility that the government will finally topple and that the people will finally get tired enough to throw it over, but nothing to the point of, okay, the people are living better, or they're better able to survive, or anything of that nature. And yeah, you go back to it, right? That anytime you give up your liberty for safety, the government can't provide you safety. They can't guarantee you safety. They can't give you that. And the reason they can't give you that is because they're not capable of it. Government is not and especially our government, that was designed to move slowly. That was designed to take generations to change. It's not designed for quick, fast action. And then I get tired of conservatives who are online and, oh, we need this now. We need to. You can't argue for government overthrow when you're in power and then argue for status quo when you're not. And unfortunately, I think there's too much of the conserva bro movement where this is why they're getting on Michael Knowles. This is why they're getting on Ben Shapiro. They're getting on the intellectual side of the conservative movement, who are telling them it's not going to happen this fast. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to just change to where all of a sudden we get all of our wish list and everybody else gets nothing. That's not how government works. And, I even today saw Jack Posobiec. He released something. He's like, well, what are you new congressmen or you new blue check marks going to do about FISA warrants and China? I said, well, do you want the realistic answer? Do you want the ideological answer, or do you want the practical answer? Because they're not the same. The ideological answer is, I would love to say we place embargo or tariffs on China, that we take away business restrictions on our own companies that allow them to come back here, that allow manufacturing to happen here, that allow us to produce things here at a level that China does, which means we're going to have to roll back some pollution regulations. We're going to have to roll back some labor regulations. We're going to have to roll back some taxation regulations. These things are going to have to happen in order for our businesses to be able to compete on the same footing that the Chinese companies can. But let's ask whether that's realistic. Because there's too many people who think if you get a majority of Congress, you can do whatever you want. A majority in Congress doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, because there's still the filibuster. And the filibuster is a very powerful tool. And I don't disagree with the filibuster, because the filibuster has helped us in a lot of instances tank some very, very progressive legislation that had a majority of people. The Green New Deal would have been passed by the House by now if not for the filibuster. So when you're not in power, the filibuster is a great thing. Now, do I think we should go back to the old rules for the filibuster, where they actually have to stand up there and they have to pee in a jug and they actually have to talk until they can't talk anymore, and if they stop talking or if they give up the podium, then they give up the filibuster? I'm fine going back to that, because now all it takes is one person to raise their hand and say, I filibuster, and get a second, and then the filibuster's enacted. And it's enacted until we have a 60% vote to get past it and resume debate. So we can just kill a bill by two hands being raised. And there's good and bad to that, but I think you should have to earn it. And our Congress people, I don't think, earn anything. I mean, look at the House. The House has spent one day in session in the last month and a half, and all they did was come and have a proxy vote for a $3 trillion bill. I mean, we couldn't even get our legislator to go on record for a $3 trillion effing bill. Chip Roy was right. This is bullshit. We can't even get them to put their name to the ballot on a $3 trillion bill, and then they scurry back home as soon as that's over. And now Nancy's going to go home and she's going to say, but it's the Senate that's not allowing us to go through. It's the Senate that's causing you guys harm because they're delaying this bill being passed. She knew good and well there was zero chance of this bill being passed. Zero chance of it getting through the House or getting through the Senate, and zero chance of President Trump signing it. She knew that going into it. For all the left who was to say, well, it's Mitch and it's the Senate who are sitting on these bills, that's fine. If you think that's what it is, Nancy Pelosi's job and any congressional person's job is not to pass bills. It's to pass bills that will be signed into law. Passing a bill is useless if it doesn't get signed into law. We can air the episode of Schoolhouse Rock. I'm happy to take the copyright infringements. I'll let Luke deal with that. If we got to do that.
I think we're all right.
If we got to do that for our guests, to understand that a bill is passing the House, my brother-in-law today. Well, the bill passed the House. That means I'm getting another check from the government. Nope. No, it doesn't, because it just passed the House. Still has a long way to go.
Yeah, pass the Senate, then get to the president.
And then, let's be honest.
Now he has line item vetoes, doesn't he?
No, the United States president has never had line item veto. That's Texas governor has line item veto.
Okay. I got that.
God, I wish the United States president had line item veto like this Texas state governor has, because that is an extremely powerful tool by the Texas state governor. So again, for any of our guests who are outside the state of Texas, and other states have line item veto, but not all of them do. When the budget, which is actually required by the Texas legislature every other year, they're actually required to submit a budget. The United States Congress is too. They just don't do it. They just vote to maintain the current one for another 3 months and add a bunch of stuff to it and never roll any of the other old shit back. What happens is so right now, if Congress was to promote a budget and it had things Trump didn't like, he could either approve it all or veto everything, right? Which means that you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. But the Texas state governor has line item veto, where he can literally go into the Texas budget and say, I don't like this particular line item, and veto it out. The rest of it can go through and be signed into law. The rest of it goes through, but this one particular, now, this has been used for personal vendettas in the past. I will say that. University of Texas A&M, or the University of Texas, because the band used to play on the Congress's South Lawn, and the first governor we had that was not a Texas grad, who didn't appreciate hearing the Texas fight song at 7:30 in the morning, because he may or may not have been over the legal limit and inebriated every morning when he woke up, he didn't appreciate hearing the band start playing. He told the band to get lost. The band told him to shove his rocks. He tried to get the state legislator to help him out, because they were all Texas grad lawyers. None of them would help him out because they enjoyed hearing the Texas fight song first thing in the morning. So he line item vetoed the entire budget for the University of Texas for a year. I mean, they got no money, and they couldn't beat the veto. He just crossed out the University of Texas from the Texas state budget for a year.
What president was that, or what governor was that?
I'd have to look it up, but the story is true.
Okay. I mean, I've heard that before, but I have no idea of its veracity. So that one's kind of funny to me. It's that's hilarious. But Longhorns got the Puff Fund just like A&M does. They actually have 2/3 of it, and they're not hurting for money, so I don't think they really care that much.
Yeah. So
although right now with the oil being down, but they got a huge endowment, so I think they're all right. I think they'll be okay.
Well, and right, like now, but this was back in the day before a lot of those things happened. So the way it works is that the state of Texas gives money derived from oil profits from state land to the land grant universities. So
the universities were granted land for research purposes or whatever it may have been, and then they found oil on that land. So then, based on the fact that the oil is being extracted, the universities then get the money because they own the land. Therefore, they get the money.
Yeah. So
it's not the government granting them the money. They own the land because the government granted them the land, and now they're making money. Now, A&M kind of screwed up in this one, and I'll admit to this. A&M was short-sighted and sold the land. And then oil was found. And A&M, I don't know how they managed to do this, But they were able to convince the state legislator to say that they should be able to retain mineral rights on land they already sold, and then were able to get 1/3 of the puff fund instead of nothing. Because honestly, they didn't deserve anything, but they got 1/3 of it back. So kudos to those guys back then who were smart enough to A, sell the land and get the money for it, and then B, take 1/3 of the Longhorns' money while doing it.
So, yes. And so, okay. We can go back to a lot of different things right now economically. We can go back to a lot of different things in the world. But we're starting to see the stock market. Stock market today took a 900-point jump today. Oil and gas kind of took a little bit of a jump today. We're going to start seeing as the world opens back up, as things get back to normal. Yeah, WTI crude right now from being back to the break-even point on oil and gas. So $40 is the kind of established break-even point. That's average across the industry, right? That's not each individual well. Some wells can be operated at much lower cost. Some wells are much higher cost. Depends on whether they're on government land. Depends on whether they're on private land. Also depends on how much that well is producing per day. Because if that well is producing 500 barrels a day, it is going to not need as much to break even as a well that produces 200 barrels a day, right? And that's just the nature of law. The nature of finance is that the more you can produce, you can either be high margin, small volume, or low volume, or high volume, low margin, or high margin, low volume. Like Walmart is low margins, high volume, right? Whole Foods is medium volume, large margins. So, it's anytime you go into business, you have to decide, do I want to get a premium price for my product, or do I want to sell a whole crap ton of it? Because it's very hard to sell at a high volume level while maintaining very healthy margins, just because of economies of scale and other things that come into play there.
Yeah, it's crazy, all that, especially like for newbie customers or newbie businesses. They have to decide early on: do we want to be long lasting, or do we want to be making money? If we want to be long lasting, we don't make as much money now, but we'll be able to get into the market and we'll be able to establish ourselves. But we can make a lot of money by selling it at a higher margin, but we may not stick around for as long because someone else may figure out how to do it cheaper. So,
or you just may never get public buy-in, right? You may just never get a consumer buy-in. Consumers may never come around to your product, and that's the great thing about the free market, is that the free market is going to dictate these things, right? I can make a decision. I can say, okay, I believe my services are worth X amount of money, and then the free market can tell me they are worth that amount of money, or maybe they're worth more, or the free market can tell me go shove rocks up your sand because that's not true. You're not worth that much. And that's the great thing about a market where there's a lot of options, because we've talked to people in our show that were very niche product marketers.
yes.
And they understand that their services are going to fetch a premium for the few people who value their services. It's not that their services, a lot of people wouldn't like their services. It's just that it's not worth the time and effort that's put into it to do it at that high of a volume. And that the quality of the product would suffer to do it at that level of a volume. So it's better for them to maintain quality, to maintain creative licensing, to do it at a smaller volume but fetch a higher value for it. Does that sometimes mean that people who want your product aren't going to be your customer? Okay. There's other options for them. There's other less expensive, more niche or less niche options, but these people are the niche suppliers in those markets.
Yeah, then you got companies like Supreme, who base their whole value on being very limited and how much how much of their product is out there. So they'll only produce 100 shoes. They'll only produce 100 sweatshirts that are this style, and that drives the value up on that. That it's
well, and the same can be said for like Lamborghini, Ferrari, the high-end Mercedes, the high-end Porsches.
But
right?
I mean, this is a newer version of economics where it's because we have these newer
extreme niche.
Yeah, well, not just that, but these newer generations of kids that have money but no work ethic, no no sense of value, what their money's worth, and they just want to be able to brag they've got something that their friends don't.
Well,
So they're willing to spend exorbitant amount of money just to be able to say they have something that their friend doesn't have.
scarcity is always going to be one of the
Yeah.
primary price drivers in the world, right?
Yeah.
So if you and okay, look, these people are artificially creating scarcity in their market, but that's fine because that builds secondary markets, right? Because a lot of these
Yes.
kids, they go and buy this, okay, the Air Jordans or whatever. There's a limited run, first edition books. We build scarcity into a market to drive price, but that also builds secondary markets, because what then happens is these kids will then, okay, I don't need these anymore. I don't want them. I want this other thing now, the other newer thing, the early adopter segment of the market. So they're going to sell what they have to a resale shop, which now gets to make some money off of it. There's always those people. We see it when, the first year a certain car comes out, right? The first year Camaros came back out. A lot of people went and bought Camaros. Okay? The Ford Bronco is going to be coming back out. I know that as of right now, financially, I'm going to be standing in line to get me one. I want one of the new Broncos. That's I'm real excited about the new Bronco coming out, especially if they have a Raptor edition of it. If they have a Raptorized version of it, that you will see me show up in that. But there's a lot of, hey, you spend your money, I'll spend mine, right? Michael Knowles today said, SBC, stupid but constitutional, and I told him to quit defining my life because I'm going to do things that I feel are okay for me. And, okay, so my wife and I have agreed that this is what we're going to do. And we are both perfectly accepting of our financial ramifications of that, having as many kids as we do. There's people who think we're jack crazy idiots for having as many kids as we do. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to let you in on a dirty little secret. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care at all. I could care less what you think about how many kids I have. Because you know what you don't have to do? Pay for my kids. I'm not asking you to. I'm not even asking you to pay for them to go to school. I'm homeschooling them. I don't even give a crap what you're paying for the school. You're not even paying for that. My kids are my kids. I'll take care of my kids. I'll take care of my own. Fine. Great. I'll take on that social ramification. I'll take on the financial responsibility of that. I've got a good job. I've got high-end degrees. I've got great certifications. I'm achieving towards another degree. We can have disagreements on whether things are intelligent or smart. That doesn't really matter. What only matters is, can I do it legally, and am I within my moral right to do so?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, buddy. It's 8:58, almost 9 o'clock.
About that time, huh?
It's about that time. What do you think? Wrap it up?
I think we'll wrap it up here, guys. So, again, for anybody
say thanks to St. Kincaid for coming on earlier.
Thanks
we
to St.
definitely
Kincaid,
appreciate you for coming, buddy.
At Status Culture on Twitter. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter. Make sure you can see now that Kyle and I have our links listed right below our names. At Ross Schumann on Twitter, at Kyle Schumann08 on Twitter. Thank God Kyle changed that, because it was something very, very silly before.
It wasn't silly. It just was hard to say.
Yeah, and hard to remember. Okay, for anybody who's new to the program or this is the first time you've seen us, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sitting through, listening to two pretty much idiots discuss things. Highly educated morons is what we like to call ourselves. Thanks for listening to us as we talk. Thank you so much to St. Kincaid, to at Status Culture, for coming on and being a part of our show today and discussing the topics that, it's great to get his view on things, because he's got a little bit of a different attitude towards it. Of course, his upbringing is way different than ours, so he's going to bring a different perspective to those matters. Thank you to all of our guests, who are normal guests, who are, make sure if you are watching these episodes and you're going through and they're on your Twitter timeline anyway, or your YouTube timeline anyway, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, right? You may as well. You're watching the videos. They're already being suggested to you. You may as well subscribe to them. You may as well hit the notification bell. And while you're doing that, you may as well join us live every now and then and ask us some questions.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we have guests on, like this Thursday, we've got a big guest coming on. Gentleman who's been on multiple different TV networks talking about crop futures. He decided that, these two dumbass brothers are good enough to come on a show for. Mr. Christopher, no, dude, I apologize. I can't pronounce your last name. Narayan. Dude, I apologize. I know you're a Marine. I know you're an Aggie. You know you've been on multiple TV shows. Sorry, I cannot remember how to pronounce your last name. But we look forward to talking to you Thursday. It's going to be a blast. 7:30, 7, somewhere in that time frame.
Yep.
He's going to be on. Going to be a good guest. Going to have a lot to talk to Ross about because economics and stocks and futures and all that good stuff. So Ross, you're welcome. I got you a guest that you're going to appreciate.
Hey, I like it.
I'll enjoy talking to him because I'm sure we'll talk a little bit of Aggie football, especially as it comes to will we have a season this fall, or if we have a season, will it be with fans?
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else out there, whatever you may be, we definitely appreciate you watching us. We definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to listen to us ramble. Gig 'em and God bless. Y'all have a great night.
Yeah, and please leave some comments on the stream. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what you want us to do, what you don't want us to do, how you want us to do it. We're happy to try to make things better. If you guys have been following us for a while, you have seen that we have evolved. The equipment's gotten better. The layouts have gotten better. The displays have gotten better. Hopefully the conversation is as good or better than it was. So, guys, we're going to continue to try to get better every episode. Just keep hanging on with us, but do make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Let us know what you want, what you need, what you really, really want, what you really, really need, and we'll make sure to get it to you. Good night,
Yes,
everybody.
Sir. Thanks and gig 'em, and God bless.
I just keep calling on the help of my peers, but their success makes me distressed. Things will be better when I disappear, bouncing from city to state. Nothing feels great, I'm a committed disgrace. If I could get up, hold my chin up, confidence is just a bluff for the weak. Might take a peek in my self-pity to realize it's selfishness for the meek. Just take these pills and makes it better, but withdrawals will make you seize up and tweak. You gotta buy it every month, we change the brand, it's more expensive this week. I'll hold my chin up, keep this grin up like my mother, she can worry like me. But if I have you, life is worth it, love is more than a contagious disease. I think of you, I think of me, a family, is this another pipe dream? But if these dreams mean anything, I'm gonna think whatever I want to think. I just can't convince myself to look. Why can't I be strong in the place where you read your books? I just can't